Cindy Gossard, are you on? Is Cindy on, Chris?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Can you try again?
Can you hear me, Joe?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay.
All righty. Time to go. Call the meeting to order. This is our first non-virtual meeting, for the most part anyhow, that we've had. And glad to be back, although I don't like the mask and I don't like the partitions. I know they're necessary. We have a limited seating in here, and I don't know whether we're at our max or not. We've got 3, 5, 8, 10, 12, 14, 17. And that counts our sergeant at arms back there. So we could take in 5 more, couldn't we? It's 22 is the limit. Okay, the first item is Cindy. If you'll call the roll and note the presence of a quorum.
Joe Edwards,
Here.
Troy Patton,
Here.
Scott Fry,
Here.
Jake Gilbert,
Here.
Cindy Spalgeri,
Here.
Mike Johns,
Here.
Scott Willis.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Okay, the agenda is pretty well set. I don't know of any changes that have come to me at the last minute. So the first items I should say, are the minutes of the 2 prior city council meetings. The first one is August the 24th. So it was a virtual meeting. I think everybody was there. Also present were Cindy Gossard, Mayor Andy Cook, and Brian Zegger, legal counsel. Do we have a motion to approve these minutes as written?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Cindy Spalgeri. Scott, you want to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and properly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next one was the meeting that the mayor called on.
Joe,
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Cindy, I can't hear anything either. This is Pam Howard.
let me call Chris, because none of us can, Kim's on here too, and she can't.
Yeah.
Somehow I got muted. Sorry about that.
Oh, can you hear me now, Chris?
Yes, you sound lovely.
Oh, good. Hey, Pam Howard she lost audio and so did Kim. Are we on?
You're on. Okay, well, I think there are a couple of omissions to the copy I have, but the first one should be the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States. So stand, and I'll lead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our prayer is going to be led by Scott Willis. So Scott, would you honor us?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of Westfield. I pray for our mayor, his staff, and this council. Give us strength and character and the wisdom to do what is right for this community. Help us to listen to those we serve with understanding and goodwill. Help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us. Lord, renew the strength of your presence and the joy of being a part of building a community worthy of your blessings. In your Son's name, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Okay, now we're ready, and I'm sorry I took that out of order. My copy does not have those things on there for some reason. Okay, so we've already approved the minutes for the first meeting. We had the second meeting on September the 1st, 2020. I was on vacation, and I think everybody else was there. But basically, it was the mayor introducing his review team. It's not an audit as it's presented, it's a review to do the review work. And the review was to be done by Daniel Hedden with Baker Tilly, Zachary Klutz with Taft Stenitis, is that right? And Brian Callahan with BKD CPA and Advisors. So we've had a chance to read this copy of the minutes. Are there any revisions or corrections that need to be looked into? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Scott Willis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Cindy Spalgeri. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the ayes have it. Okay, now we're ready for, there are no, well, I better stay hitched to my agenda here. Claims, approval of claims for September 14th. This one is 21 pages of claims. Are there any questions on the claims as presented by the clerk treasurer?
Yes.
Okay, Troy?
Yeah, I'd like to just push the Craig DeVault invoice back to the next meeting, the $32,213.50. I've talked to Brian, we've gone back and forth, wrestled around about it. He's possibly gonna bring the invoice maybe to us to review prior to, so we can actually see the detail on the invoices, something that we haven't been able to see in the past.
No,
Fair.
that's not exactly what I said.
Okay.
And that amount's actually been paid.
Oh, the
It's
30.
paid on demand. It's a professional services contract on the terms and
Okay,
conditions.
I wouldn't have paid it then, so, but in the future, I'd like to see those before we pay them. Again, in all fairness to Brian, I brought this to his attention today that, we've talked about it before. I want to see what issues we are facing that are non-retainer matters here for city council. This is nothing against Brian personally. In fact, there's probably nothing there, but if you could imagine if everybody that we worked with in the city all of a sudden said, if you want to see the detail of this invoice, you need to come to my office to review it. That makes no sense. So I'd like to see those things before we start paying them.
Well, you and I talked about some
I
things,
know.
and I'm happy to go forward with some idea, but keep in mind that this is not something you choose not to pay.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
Can we come to an agreement, though, that perhaps there should be a little more documentation?
I'm not going to agree to that now. I'm trying to reduce the work I have to do on this after a public record's been documented and submitted, so no, I'm not going to agree to that now.
Okay, any other comments?
I've got one other question here, Joe. On page 12, Fund 264, the road and street improvement, the invoice for $22,416 payable to American Structure Point. I'm going to assume this is for the preliminary engineering for State Road 32, and I'm not suggesting we don't pay it. I'd say let's go ahead and pay it. But prior to the next meeting, I'm going to send a email in tomorrow. I'd like to see a copy of that structure point agreement for the project. That's the widening of State Road 32. Record of all payments that have been made to date and what those payments have been made for, so I can get a better status update as to where we're at. So that's my comment.
Okay, Jeremy?
Yeah, sure. For the record, Jeremy Lawler, Director of Public Works. If I see your 22-416, is that the one you were referring to?
Yes,
Where it says State Road 32 reconstruction?
yes.
Yes, that is correct. That is part of the design contract for State Road 32. Happy to provide that. It went through the appropriate selection process in partnership with INDOT, since it's an INDOT project as well. For future reference, all these invoices detailed fully are in NAV. If you give us a heads up prior to the meeting, we can get all that stuff to you.
Thanks, Jeremy. And that's, again, if I can get it next week, help me find it, that'd be great.
No problem.
And just to add to that, John Nail, city engineer, I can email you the copy of that invoice right now if you'd like, but I've got it handy.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other comments on the claims as presented? Okay, I'll call for a motion to approve the claims.
So moved?
I'll second that.
Okay, Cindy, did you move?
Yes.
Okay, and who seconded?
I did, Scott
Okay, Scott. Okay, we have a motion before us. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Joe Edwards.
No.
Okay. All right. Troy Patton,
No.
Scott Fry. Scott
Yes.
Fry.
Yes.
Jake Gilbert.
Yes.
Cindy Spalchieric.
Yes.
Mike Johns.
Yes.
Scott Willis.
Yes.
That motion carries 5-2.
Okay, well, I got a message here from somebody, and, well, we'll talk about that later. The next item, I want to reflect on my vote just a bit. Not that it needs a lot of reflection, but in my business experience, I would have been embarrassed to submit an invoice for nothing, I mean, that had nothing on it. Where I worked, I'd have probably been fired. I think it's just common decency that we do some of this for the fiscal body. Now, not necessarily for us, you may not like us at all, but for future city councils, we need to get that straight.
Joe, you make it sound as though nobody ever reviews any of the matters that go into the billing, and that's simply not the fact. In fact, I've explained that to you on multiple occasions.
Well, perhaps my memory fails me then on that, but
My billings are all set down with either Todd or the mayor, and they've gone through. And everything's authorized before an invoice is generated out of my office to the city, thereby cutting down the amount of public documents created and the amount I have to manage later. That's my goal. And I've always told you you had the opportunity to see anything you wanted, but I was trying not to create a public document. And this has been the practice I've had for over 20 years.
I know that the auditor, though, in previous exit interviews has mentioned it as a problem. I'm just saying it's a
And when I
problem.
gave her the same explanation, there's never been a follow-up.
well, I would like to have more discussion with you about this, off the record, and,
I'm always available, Joe. You
Okay.
know that better than anybody.
but I'm not a bit embarrassed at my vote, let's put it that way, okay? All right. Having got past that, there is no old business. We have new business, Ordinance 20-33, 100% voluntary annexation, Osborne Trails, Phase 5. Pam, are you there?
Yes, this is Pam Howard, the Community Development Department. Before you this evening for introduction, I have a 100% voluntary annexation of 5.2 acres to be part of the Osborne Trails development. This site is generally located on the east side of 6 Points Road and north of 193rd Street. It's eligible for public hearing tonight, has been properly noticed and advertised, and would be back in front of you in October for adoption consideration. The petitioner is not present this evening, but I am available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, this calls for a public hearing tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Show the public hearing open at 7:15. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to this voluntary annexation? Hearing none, I move to close the public hearing at 7:16. It ran a minute, I guess. So, we have introduced the ordinance. The public hearing has been held, and this will be up for adoption on September 28th, our next meeting.
Can I have a point of clarification? We don't have these listed as public hearing items? Or-
No, that's why I hesitated. Mine's not listed either as a public hearing.
And there's three, all, you know, for phase 5, 6, and 7, but they're not listed as hearings, so. Pam?
Yes.
Do
Yeah, we did notice it for a public hearing. If we need to hold another one at your next meeting, I wasn't planning on this being back for adoption until October, actually, not September 28th. So we can discuss that if legal counsel thinks we need to hold a second public hearing, since it wasn't listed that way on the agenda. However, like I said, it was noticed as a public hearing.
If it was noticed for a public hearing, that's fine. The agenda, if it contains the lack of notice on the agenda that there's a public hearing, we just add that. So if you want to hold a public hearing for the next three things, if they were properly advertised, that complies with the law.
Okay, well, public hearing's been held on the first item, 20-33. We have another ordinance, 20-34, 100% voluntary annexation on Osborne Trails Phase 6. It's introduced tonight, and there is to be a public hearing tonight, I guess. I don't have that on my agenda, but it's been explained that way. So the public hearing's opened at 7:17. Does anybody care to speak to this? Nobody cares to speak. I declare the public hearing closed at 7:18. So this, Pam, will be up for adoption in the first meeting in October, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry about that. She didn't catch, and I didn't either, that it was a public hearing to be listed on the agenda, and I didn't have an adoption date. I just assumed the next meeting. My bad.
Okay.
It's okay, Kim.
There's no punishment for that. Okay, the next item is ordinance 20-35, 100% voluntary annexation, Osborne Trails Phase 7. It is introduced tonight, and we are to have a public hearing, and I declare the public hearing open at 7:19. Is there anybody that cares to speak to this? I declare the public hearing closed at 7:20. Okay, and this will be, it's introduced tonight, the public hearing's been held. The adoption consideration will be in October. Okay, we're done with that. And we have Resolution 20-135, City of Westfield approving the library bonds, adoption consideration September 14th, which is tonight. Cheryl, do you want to speak briefly to this?
Can you hear me okay with the mask on? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Let me put my glasses on so I can read. Good evening. I'm Cheryl Sollers. I'm the director of the Westfield, Washington Public Library. Tonight, on behalf of the Public Library Board, I'm asking the council to approve the issuance of bonds in the amount of $500,000 for the purpose of funding the following projects listed on the slide. The first is an outreach vehicle. This vehicle will be used to provide library services to assisted living facilities, community events, neighborhoods, etc. It will be a traveling library branch. Number 2 is boiler replacement. We found out recently that we need to replace 2 of our 26-year-old boilers. One is inoperable due to a crack in the heat exchanger, and the second boiler is running but has become a challenge to keep it. So it has been recommended that replace both of these boilers. Number 3 is the RFID project. Using RFID technology will enable the library to increase the efficiency of our library services. Number 4, they're different. On my list is building repairs, and that's a bay window repair, study room and story castle repair, HVAC issues in other areas of the library, front door weather prevention, replace all fixtures with LED lighting, and repaving and repairing parking lot. Then another thing that we have project is to switch to voice over IP phone system and the library feasibility study costs. These bonds will be payable solely by the library, and once issued are not expected to increase the tax levy of the library, and the principal amount will not exceed $500,000. Indiana Code 6-1.1-17-20.5 requires that before an appointed library board may issue bonds, it must obtain the approval of the applicable physical body. And since more than 50% of the parcels of real estate in the library district are located within the city limits, the city of Westfield, Indiana, pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-17-20.5, the Common Council is the applicable physical body to approve the issuance of the library bonds. By the approval contained in this resolution, the city in no way becomes obligated to repay the bonds of the library, nor do such bonds count against the city's constitutional debt limit. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Cheryl. Any questions for Cheryl? Good presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Cheryl, what is the outreach vehicle? A little more specifically, what will that be?
It's
Obviously, $200,000 vehicle. I assume it's not a Lamborghini, so what?
no, yeah, it's my Lamborghini that I know. No, it's kind of like an oversized van that will have book carts in it. We will actually have books available. It'll be Wi-Fi enabled. So when we take it to events, we can actually check out books to people, issue library cards. It's kind of like a library on wheels, basically, if that explains it a little.
Kind of like a bookmobile.
Yeah, like a bookmobile, only it's going to be a little smaller. So so the person who's driving doesn't have to have a CDL license.
Okay. Any questions for Cheryl from the council?
Do you have staff to be able to man this thing, or is it gonna be a very, rare occurrence?
We do, actually, we already go to the assisted living places, but the staff uses their own vehicle. So yes, we do, to answer your question, yes, we do have staff that will be able to do this.
Okay.
Cheryl, what's the interest rate on the bonds?
It is, they believe they'll be 1%.
Okay. Is that 5 years or?
It's 3 years.
3 years, oh, okay, perfect, okay.
Okay. Well, I think we're ready for the question is, do we have a motion to approve these library bonds?
So moved.
Scott Willis moves, I will second. My mother used to serve on the library board, so if I can honor her briefly, I will. Okay, we have a motion properly made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, we're ready for the question. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Cindy Spalgeri,
Yes.
Jake Guilford,
Yes.
Scott Bright,
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Troy Patton,
Yes.
Joe Edwards.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Our next item is Ordinance 20-36. It's an updated traffic ordinance. And Jeremy, I know there's probably a lot of detail to this, but, well, you've got it refined for us pretty well. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, sir. This is a standard process we do at least once a year. Primary function is to bring in all of the new roads that we take over assumption, the ownership of after the maintenance bond period. So when they go from privately owned to publicly owned, we have to amend the traffic ordinance in order to be able to regulate those. So that first section, it says new addition of subdivisions. Those are all those subdivisions, and the streets inside those are specifically now added to the ordinance. As you move down this cover sheet, there's a couple areas where we've added some additional no parking signs. Out in Merrimack, per the request of the neighborhood, we turned a two-way stop, or would like to turn a two-way stop into a four-way stop. And then also adding our new road construction, which will be Westfield Boulevard, that's under construction today. And then the other notable change is Tournament Trail. So at the request of the post office, we now have an east Tournament Trail and a west Tournament Trail that divides like all the rest of our roads across the city. It was really an addressing issue as we started moving to the west. You were going to have two 100 tournament trails. So we had to denote the difference, we had to change it to 100 east and 100 west. If that makes sense.
Where does that break at the?
It breaks at the median point, which is just west of Oak Ridge, I believe. Okay. It's not at 31 and 32. It's out further to the west. So, I know that's a pretty vague overview. It is an introduction. Happy to try to answer any questions you have now. John Nail's also on the line. And then obviously this will come back, so we'll have some time in between.
John, do you have anything to add to this?
No, Jeremy covered it pretty well.
Okay. Well, we've got the ordinance before us. It's introduced this evening, and it'll be before us on September the 28th for a vote on 2020. So,
Can I say one thing?
yeah, sure.
So I had a question today because of 191st Street.
Correct.
And I'm talking in between Grassy Branch and Moontown, correct? And probably most of us don't realize, but due to our projects and annexations, that road portion is now ours, and it was the county, correct?
Correct.
Before, everything to the east on 191st was county maintained for a while, but now, since we've done our projects, we take that over, correct?
Anything that gets annexed on both sides, essentially.
It has to be both sides.
It depends on how the plat is set out. So it's, generally speaking, if it's one side, we get the entire road. Not always, but in this case, yes, we do. And you'll see this broken ownership area or situation all over the outskirts of town. So like Grassy Branch, for example. We largely maintain it. It's broken in several pieces that the county owns, 500 feet, and then we own it, and so on. So we work in close, partnership with them for snow removal services and resurfacing costs and things like that. But so I think the point of your question is, speed limit on that road is 50. We could not regulate it until we bring it into the traffic ordinance. We will evaluate it and it requires some analysis to see if that needs to be reduced, which the approval of this will allow us to do that. John can weigh into, I don't know if that's something we want to consider before adoption, but
Well,
again,
normally I'm not one to want to decrease speed. It's
Sure.
just not the way I work, but, sorry, officers. But actually, this is one I do have concern about, and the rest of 191st Street is listed at 35, if I'm correct. I think that was on the.
I don't recall off the top of my head.
It's further down in there, and it
Yeah.
basically says 191st Street, and it just says like 35. And then this segment would be 50 right now. I mean, because we're taking it over, and that's what the county had it at.
Right.
We're doing, I mean, there's a lot of drives there, and there's a lot of construction coming with the projects we've approved. So my concern is that all of those make for a pretty crazy mix, and then with the roundabout construction too coming.
Mm-hmm.
So we might want to consider that earlier rather than later.
We will absolutely evaluate it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Cindy, just to add to that, I sent you an email right before the meeting started as a follow-up to your question. I think our intent is to bring it into the traffic ordinance as it was existing with the county. And then what we'll do is, if we're going to change speed limits, we want to do a traffic study and what's called an 85th percentile study to understand what the going rate of speed is on that road. And then we'll make updates to 191st Street holistically as an entire corridor to really make a decision on what the best speed is throughout that corridor.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Jeremy, these added subdivisions, I know we've met and worked on subdivisions. Are these all subdivisions that have brought their roads up to the standard that we require and now we're taking them over?
Yeah, correct. So the way it works is they build them. Once they're accepted by us, past all of our inspections and completely punched out, there is a 3-year maintenance bond period. So they own them for 3 years, maintain them. If there's any failures they have to fix, they plow the snow for that 3-year period of time. Once that expires is when we bring them into our traffic ordinance.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Thanks, Jeremy. Okay, the next item is, these are introductions only. And the first one is Bellcrest PUD. That is in my district, and it is on North Shady Nook Road. And I see Matt Skelton is here to explain this. And I've looked at it a little, but Matt will explain it in a little more detail.
Sure. Is it okay if I talk without this? Thank you. Good evening, members of the council and staff. Matt Skelton, for your record, with Church Hill and Antrim, with offices at 116 North Union Street here in Westfield. With me this evening is Randy McNutt with Dries Premier Homes, who would be the builder in this proposed project. We're here this evening to present to you Bellcrest, which is an active adult empty nester project on Shady Nook Road. It's at the northwest, what would be the northwest corner of 186th Street and Shady Nook if 186th Street went through. And before I dive into any details, I thought I might just ask Randy to kind of explain a little bit about the evolution that's happened in Dries. They've been here working in our community for quite some time, and this is a new product for them, and ask him to speak to that real quickly, please.
Thanks, Matt. Good evening. My name is Randy McNutt. I'm the division president for Dries Homes here in Indianapolis. For those who may not be familiar with Dries, we're a family-owned company that's been in business for 92 years now. We've been here in Indianapolis for the last 21 years, and we've been involved in 5 different neighborhoods in Westfield that I'm very proud to have the Dries name on, and if you would at any time like to know what those are to drive through them, I'd be happy to share those with you. I also have a special interest in what happens in Westfield, as I've been a resident here for the last 31 years. The product that we're looking at for Bellcrest is relatively new to the Dries company and new to Indianapolis. It's something that we have built in both Avon and Brownsburg, 2 very popular neighborhoods that have done very well, and that's why we'd like to introduce it to the Westfield community. And there's really 3 reasons why it's been popular and why I hope you'll give it consideration. The first is the 2 neighborhoods that we've already built or in the process of building in Avon and Brownsburg. This is about the same size. And there's a segment of the population that just really doesn't want to be a part of a large master plan community. And not that there's anything wrong with master plan communities. There are several of them, as you're well aware of here in Westfield. But there's a segment of the population that wants something a little smaller, a little more quaint, a little quieter, and just doesn't want all the activity that comes with a large master plan community. The second reason that it's been popular, and why I hope you'll give it consideration, is there's also a segment that doesn't need and want to pay for $1 million clubhouses, pools, and a lot of the amenities that drive up the HOA fees. And the 2 neighborhoods that we're already building, again, are very similar to this without the large clubhouses and pools and playgrounds, because it's just not something that they value and need. Typically, this buyer isn't even here usually half of the year and maybe have a second home someplace else. The third reason that I hope you'll consider it is when you look east of 31, there really isn't very much to choose from for this type of buyer, someone who wants a smaller attached product. Go west of 31 and every quarter of a mile you can find something. East of 31, really other than Lindley Run that's going to come online, there's not anything for the buyer that this seems to attract. And it has all the conveniences within this area that they're looking for. And I think there are plenty of people who want to be east of 31 in Westfield as opposed to west of 31, but just not a lot to choose from. So that's the simple explanation as to why I hope you'll consider this. Thank you.
What is the price point on these homes?
Price point will be about $275 to $350.
Okay.
Average price will probably be in the low 300s by the time people add in options and things like that. This product, while it's a ranch product, has the opportunity for a story and a half. And upstairs can be a bonus room, it can be a bonus room with a bath, it can be a bonus room with a bath and a bedroom, so that it accommodates grandkids, it accommodates a single parent, just gives them a little flex space upstairs.
Any other questions from the council? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, I'll wrap up. I think Randy covered things pretty well, but I would draw your attention to the fact that there is this is a fairly diverse area from a housing perspective. There's unplatted, if you want to put up the location map, it shows it a little bit, but there's unplatted, kind of deeper lots to the north. There are very nice new homes to the south in the lakes. There are one-level apartments to the southeast in the Redwood project, and even farther south, or just a little bit south of this picture, there are condo quads, there are condo townhomes, a diverse array, and then immediately across the street to the east are homes that are probably in that $250 to $350 price point range. So this really doesn't duplicate anything that's in this vicinity. It would complement it. And so with that, this is a 20-acre site. There are 42 structures as shown in the concept plan, each containing 2 paired ranches, 2 paired ranch homes. As Randy mentioned, they can be single story or 1.5 story, in the way things are structured. The half story can't exceed 50% of the ground level square footage. So they really are designed to be empty nester type of homes. There is no basement option. And so one other thing that I'll mention, for those of you who are studies of the Westfield Comprehensive Plan, there is support for this kind of diversity. I think the comprehensive plan refers to it as high-quality lifespan housing. And that is the type of housing that allows you to basically live in a community during every segment of your lifetime. And specifically in this area, it's identified as the new suburban northeast area. And it contemplates encouraging compatible high-quality lifespan housing. So, and attached dwellings is is deemed an appropriate land use in the new suburban area. That's page 41 of your comp plan. If anybody has any questions, we're happy to respond. We'd welcome your input, and we would appreciate your recommendation to the Plan Commission for public hearing.
I might say, Matt, the word lifespan means different things to different people. You must be very careful how you use that word.
Some are longer than others.
Yes.
Okay.
I do have a few questions or comments, and I'll have more when it comes to Plan Commission.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that you will offer elevations for especially the rears and sides. I just prefer to see that. And also I'm requesting that everybody who puts forward a PUD right now include their own sunset provision and give you some leeway in terms of, well, until we figure out exactly how that's going to look in our UDO. Give you that discretion right now to propose something for us to discuss.
Some language?
Yeah.
Okay.
And is this like a maintenance-free kind of setup?
It's low maintenance, it's not no maintenance. So there would be, I mean, the individual owners,
All the yard work is taken care of, but the structure is up to the individual owner.
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
Actually, I got a question based on that answer. So are they sharing a roof line on these houses?
The roof lines are all separated to some degree, but yes, there will be, in the HOA documents, there will be language that arranges for replacement of roofs. So each building would be replaced together, not individually.
Okay, because I had an apartment over in Bridgewater at one time, a townhome that had a shared roof line. And we had a leak that was started in one side of it. We're not really sure where it came from, but the leak ended up on my deck and did a lot of erosion on the wood. And it was a real battle with the association to determine who is responsible for that. So that would be my only concern. When you have those shared roof lines, you can create some real problems. So I'm sure that'd be fleshed out with the Planning Commission, but just a concern from my end.
Yeah, and good covenants are designed to address all those things well. And so fortunately, this isn't the first time, this has been done. There's great examples out there, so.
Excellent.
I have a question as well.
Sure.
This would be the third development like this, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Avon, and I didn't catch the other one, I apologize. Brownsburg, okay.
Yeah, the name is the Hideaway in Brownsburg and Stonehaven in Avon.
Approximately where are they? Are those fully constructed and
The one in Avon has 72 homes in it, of which 20 of those were built by a previous builder years ago. We came in and built the last 50 or so. That one is 90% done.
okay.
But just know if you go out there, only 2/3 of them are ours, so you may see some a little over. And then Stonehaven, we just got started about 4 months ago. You'll see 4 buildings that are complete, and you'll soon see another 4 that are under construction.
Happy to, I can send you better directions if you
Okay,
like.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
And again, just for clarity, you've referenced empty nest scenarios multiple times, but there's no age restriction whatsoever.
There's no age restriction proposed. This largely includes people who are older folks that are empty nesters, but it could also accommodate singles and people, but it's not designed to accommodate swing sets and things of that nature, so they really
The
are.
upper level does allow for a single parent with a child or with a child because it gives them a complete separate living area.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is ordinance 20-38, and this also is a introduction. Caramore PUD. This is on Horton Road North, pretty close to,
You want some help?
oh, I see. Yeah, pretty close to, can't think of his name now. I'm froze.
It would be the northwest corner of 199th and Horton if 199th went through.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Could you show the zoning map? That might help a little bit. So this is a 40-acre piece of property being proposed by, it's called Caramore. It's a development called Caramore being proposed by Dries Homes as well. Randy McNutt is here if you have any questions about the homes, but this one should be simple for you to get your hands around because it's very similar to another neighborhood that Dries has constructed here in Westfield. They've had great success with Wilshire. If you folks are familiar with Wilshire, it's located on 156th Street, a little bit west on the north side, a little bit west of Spring Mill Road. If you were looking at an aerial photograph, it's exactly south and adjacent to Shamrock Springs Elementary. They've had great success there. There's probably about 12 lots remaining, and this proposal would basically be like Wilshire. You could drive through Wilshire today and get a really good feel about how that's going to look and feel. The Chatham Hills PUD is located to the east, north, and west of us. And if we had the ability to zoom out a little bit, it would become apparent that this is somewhat of an infill site. The property to the south, I believe, is owned by a land investor that owns some other real estate here in Westfield as well. But all the property around it is Chatham Hills, and I believe Arbor Homes, if I'm not mistaken, has recently just platted the property to the north and west of this site. Can we put up the concept plan? There we go. And so the concept plan as proposed really just plugs right into everything that is around it. I think there was a stub street platted by Arbor to the west, and so we've tied into that. It really has a pretty extensive trail network if you can focus on that. It'll have the same roadside path. It ties into the path system to the north, the subdivision to the north, provides opportunity to accept for extension to the south, and all of the cul-de-sacs and all of the common areas are accessible by trails. So they've done a thoughtful job of trying to do that. There will be some preserved trees along the east property line along Horton. No need to disturb those. And then there will be some supplemented landscape areas that are indicated there, which will provide more information to the Plan Commission. But really, this is pretty, there's not a lot of guesswork here. If you want to see what this would look like, it'll be Wilshire.
Matt, the drainage on that, some of that's pretty low as you get along Horton Road up to the north. Where does that stuff go when there's a big one?
I know there's a legal drain that comes directly through the center of the property from the north where Arbor is building. And so the engineers have told us that that's really the necessary location for those ponds. They did not say anything in my meetings with them regarding drainage in that corner, but we'll certainly look into it.
Okay, so if
This is an intelligent drawing, though. I mean, there's been an engineer, a surveyor,
Okay.
an engineer prepare this, so I mean, I'm sure that's been part of their thought process.
it just looks to me like the water always stands up there south of Horton. Every time you drive by and there's been a heavy rain.
That's a pond directly north that Arbor has on the south portion of their property. So right above the pond that you see on the north is another pond that Arbor has.
Okay.
There's what they be collecting there.
So they have provision for that then.
I believe so.
Yeah, it's included in the plat that was approved, I think. But I don't know which way it flows. I will find that out.
Can you find that out
Yep.
for me?
Uh-huh.
How do the lot sizes compare to those in Wilshire?
These are
The exact same size.
are they the exact same size?
Setbacks?
I think they're the same size. I'll confirm that. I'll confirm that between the now and the Plan Commission. If they're not the same, we may have reduced them a little bit and increased the open space. So I'll confirm that. I'll have that for you at the Plan Commission before.
Minimum lot width is 65.
Yeah.
Which is the same as.
I was looking at the yards. Some of the yards look pretty slim. I'd have the same comment as I had before about the sunset provision.
Got it.
So make sure and add that in. And also, one of my sticking points, and I see that you've tried to somehow accommodate it in certain ways, but when we have those rear elevations facing the public right-of-way, I'd really prefer that not. And when we have the choice, it really troubles me that we keep doing that in terms of your concept plan.
Noted. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Matt, I would just add that
Go ahead, Mike.
I've got, I had a client who built a house over in Wilshire, and I'm very familiar with the quality of these homes, and Dries builds a really nice home. And I think it'd be a great asset to the community to have a similar subdivision, the land of Stoneman Home.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, thank you for the introduction, and it'll be on to the APC.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the next one is ordinance 20-39, Courtyards at Westfield, PUD. This is in your territory.
Sure. So this is going to be a PUD, again, Courtyards at Westfield PUD, 151st Street and Town Road roughly. So this is in District 4, so I will be kind of the liaison. If anyone has questions, concerns, they can direct those to me. And we'll go from there, but Matt's going to walk us through it.
All right, thank you very much. Again, Matt Skelton, for your record. With me this evening from Epcon Communities is Mike Gould, the Regional District President. And then I've got Jason Coffey, who is the Vice President of Land Development for Epcon. We're here to talk about the Courtyards of Westfield proposal, which is an empty nester active adult community as well, which is on kind of an infill site, which we'll get into. But before we dive in, I'd like Jason, if he will, just to explain a little bit about Epcon. Epcon has a presence here in Westfield already. They may not be a foreign name to some of you, but they have a couple projects here, and their product has evolved over the years, and I'd like Jason to kind of explain kind of where they are right now.
Okay, take the mask off, right, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Matt. My name is Jason Coffey with Epcon Communities, 500 Stonehenge Parkway, Dublin, Ohio. Matt, thanks for the introduction. Epcon, just tell you a little bit about Epcon. We started in 1986 with Ed Beckham and Phil Fankhauser, who are still active in the company today. The E and the P of Epcon is how we got our name. The sole focus of our company has been the empty nester homes. We've definitely looked for the active adult empty nester buyer since 1986. Matt mentioned that our product has evolved. We started out with the fourplex, all attached to the garage, kind of each living area, kind of fanning out from there, called pinwheel product. About 10 years ago, we introduced our detached homes. They're single-family detached homes, but the communities function the same way. It's still a low maintenance with all the yard work, landscaping, snow removal, et cetera, all covered. We did have the buildings included when they were all fourplexes because of roof lines and some of those. Now that we've separated the homes themselves are maintained by the homeowner, but all the grounds are still what it was before as far as the low maintenance aspects. We are typical buyers for our communities. I mean, we build a community center. We are a builder developer, so we not only do we develop a site, but we build all the homes. We will not be selling off to other home builders. We are a home builder, but we build all the homes, so it becomes a community focus. Our typical buyer comes within a 3 or 5 mile radius of where we build a community, so most of our buyers live in your community today, are very close. Our buyer typically has lived in the community, have all the kids have grown, so at this point they're just looking for a maintenance-free, low-maintenance lifestyle, like the community, but don't need the big house, the big yard, the kids have moved away, but still like the community and want to stay in a presence here. Matt mentioned that we do have a presence here. Corporately, we build in Columbus, Ohio. That's where our headquarters are. We also build in Raleigh and Charlotte, North Carolina. We've recently, in the last year, have opened up the Indy market for corporate opportunities. We also franchise our business, and that's where you've probably heard of our company. Epcon has built several communities here in the Indianapolis market through a franchise operation we also have. So we allow local home builders, developers to franchise, build our homes with our development systems to create an Epcon community in the local market. But we see a lot of opportunity in the Indianapolis market, so this will be a corporate location for us. The two communities have been built here in Westfield. One is the Villas of Oak Ridge, I think was built in the early 2000s. that would have all the fourplex homes that I mentioned before that we started our company. The other was Maples at Spring Mill. That had a start with the fourplex product that we have, but now it evolved. The phase 2 became our detached single family. So if you drive by there, you'll see an earlier version of our detached single family homes that community was finished with. This will be a corporate community, so there will not be any franchise involvements. Will be built by Epcon Corporate, and we'll only have the single family detached homes. And again, they will be all our homes. We'll not be selling off any of the other locations to any other builders. And I see a maps come up here. I'll let Matt kind of talk in specifics about this community, but I'll be here to answer any questions about either Epcon or the community we're looking for here, and look forward to working with Westfield from a corporate perspective. Thank you.
Any questions from members of the council?
I have my standard comments now that you've heard already for that sunset provision. And also, interestingly, we actually wrote our SFA standards based on an Epcon product from the fourplexes. We actually sat down with that and we thought it was a good product. And so I was really hoping when I saw Epcon that that's actually what you were bringing. I was kind of bummed when you weren't. We're not seeing that being built anymore, which is something I was going to ask you since I have you here. Why are we not seeing that?
Well, it's we really, from a standpoint of who the buyer was, when we were doing the fourplexes and started our company back in 1986, that buyer and that age demographic liked the attached component of it. They didn't have as many expectations for upgrades and extras. We're now selling to the baby boomers, and they seem to have their own dynamic of what they're looking for. And one of them is outside living area and no attached product is what we're finding in our research. So that 55-plus buyer typically is liking their own standalone area. And Matt will get into some of the product, but one of our selling features of our homes is an outside private courtyard that's at the side of the home that provides a private outdoor living area versus typically when you see patio homes. That's why we call ours courtyard homes. Patio homes usually have that outdoor living space on the back of the home, so you have your neighbor right across the 20 feet away or whatever on either side or across the lot line. Ours are all on the side, so they're private and closed. And again, the baby boomers and our buyers really like that component of our design.
And what is the average sale price on these?
We're expecting anywhere from mid-3s to mid-5s. Probably average will be upper 4s generally.
And then what are the yearly dues that they'll be paying?
What we've seen in most of our communities is somewhere in the low 200s to 300 a month typically. We do have a clubhouse and pool that's a central feature. I'm kind of stealing some of Matt's thunder, but it's a very important component of our, again, it's just not about building homes. We feel very strongly about the community, which is why our name is Epcon Communities. And that lifestyle with the clubhouse, the pool, the amenity features, the pickleball courts, the walking trails, we think that all adds to a lifestyle with amenities that's very important to our buyers.
Thank you.
I can dispense with using my thunder, I guess, but I would point out this site is somewhat interesting, and I'm not sure that it sticks out. Well, yeah, while you're there, I can talk to that. This shows what Jason was talking about, like the side of one of the homes actually serves as kind of part of the outside room of the home next door. So this is somewhat unique to Epcon in that respect, and it creates kind of an outside room, and then the area behind the home doesn't really serve as a conventional rear. It's actually commonly maintained and landscaped. So you want to let's do your zoning map. So just to quickly orient you, it's kind of I'll have a better exhibit for this at the Plan Commission, but the hatched area to the north and to the west of the outline, there is the Del Webb project that was recently approved and platted. The property immediately east of the outline is a Thrive, I think it's called Thrive Church. It's a future church campus, but there's an existing church facility there. And then the hatched marks to the northeast, and is another PUD, that's Westchester. And then kind of to the southeast area is all, it all looks like the same color, but it's all Town West, which is a commercial development. And one thing that I would point out, this is really hard to do. I'll just point here. This area right here is identified in your comprehensive plan as a future neighborhood commercial area. It's not part of this proposal by any means, but this is all commercially zoned today. And then these are two large lot residences today. One of the owners we have had communication with, and he understands the proposal, and he's Jack Miller. If you know Jack, he owns a dental practice here in town. But I think he's fine with the project. He's going to have to get used to having neighbors, and he knows it, and he's probably not that happy about it, but he understands. And if you're going to transition from single family to what is to become to the south, this is probably the highest value, lowest intensity that you're going to come up with. And then there's another owner that we're meeting with tomorrow out there, so we can provide updates on that. With that, go ahead.
Any questions for Matt?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that I was reading that correctly. It looked like the square footage was going to range from 1,400 square foot home to 4,100. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically, again, all of our homes are 2-bedroom, 2-bath, all living on the first floor. The 1,400 is just without bonus. We do have a larger home we're introducing to this community that's going to probably be around that 3,000 range on the first floor, with bonus up could be up to that 4,100 square feet. That's why it's a pretty wide range.
That is a really wide range. So, but the majority of them are going to be in that teens to 2,000?
Yeah, I think where we end up typically is in that, most of them end up in that low to mid 2,000 square footage for all the homes, because a lot of them do opt for the bonus suite up. And our ranges are from, on the first floor, let's just talk about the first floor. We have 1,400, we have just over 1,500, 1,525, we have a 1,776, we have about a 2,000, and this new home will be in the 28, 29, maybe up to 3,000 range on the first floor. And so the other square footage would be all the bonus suite up, yes.
All right, thank you.
And just as a note, although the design of the community is much different than the Maples, if you look at the product that has been built in the Maples, there's a variation in floor plan sizes that you can see on an aerial photograph and drive through and see it today. Different product, it's an evolved product now, but.
Thank you.
I do have the same concerns too with the rear elevations. And just for anyone here who's got a PUD, to remind you, when you schedule your neighbor meetings, can you let us know?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. We are when we get those set, I know we have one of them set already, but I'll distribute that to the council members. Yep.
I'd just like to add to it that I'm looking forward to hear more about this project at the APC. I'm really excited with the project because I think the Courtyards offers a type of product that we don't have anywhere else in Westfield. And I like the general location being next to Del Webb because it's an alternative to Del Webb. Del Webb has the exterior, as I understand it, the exterior patios and outside living, whereas this product has an interior courtyard. So I think it's going to appeal to two different components of the same basic market. And I'm, again, excited to have it.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next item is Ordinance 20-40, and this is a council introduction. It's City of Westfield Fire Prevention. Chief, as I understand it, this is kind of a update of present ordinances that we have, and maybe some new stuff also.
That's correct.
Okay.
President Edwards and Council, my name is Marcus Reed, your fire chief.
And we are here tonight to introduce this new fire ordinance. I'm going to kind of give a basic overview, and then if you have any technical questions, I'm going to turn that over to the fire marshal because you don't want me to answer it, and I don't want to answer it. This represents about well over 7 months worth of work. This was the first project I gave Chief Roberts when he got here to update our ordinance and get it aligned. I think to give you a little bit of a background, I got a couple of things I'll address, but to give you a little bit of background about how fire prevention ordinances work in Indiana, the state of Indiana really pretty much designates and says what we can do and what we can't. So as an example, the state has a sprinkler ordinance. If we wanted to have a more stringent sprinkler ordinance, we couldn't do it. It'd take an act of legislation to actually make it occur. So what we're going to propose, what we're going to talk about here tonight is that everything that is in this ordinance is already what the state of Indiana requires us to do. And all we're doing really is updating that and getting it up to speed. The ordinance, we have run it through the state fire marshal's office and they have approved it. City attorney's looked at it and he's all good with it. So a couple of things that you probably want to know is that I guess I would say I already said this, but there's nothing in the ordinance that is already not required by the state of Indiana. So there's no secret here. There's nothing that really increases a cost or a fee. All the fees and costs that you'll see in the ordinance all refers back to our fee schedule, which you have you should have it when we do our budget. We update our fee ordinance and you'll see that there. It's reflected. The only fees we really take are like for planning, during the planning pieces, and then the inspection pieces on apartments. I may have missed, I don't know if I missed one, but Jim will tell me if I did. And I think more importantly, it doesn't change any operational component within the city. So as an example, I know Councilwoman Spoljarek sent me an email. We worked with Kevin in terms of economic development and how there's nothing in this ordinance that changes anything about how our daily operations go today. So it's a pretty benign thing. Really what it is to get us up to speed and get us up to date in terms of an ordinance. The previous ordinance, if you take a look at it, it's just not as complete as this one is. So with that, I certainly would entertain any questions for Chief Roberts.
Do any of you have questions on this ordinance?
And we would certainly make ourselves, as you kind of go through it, and if you have questions, we'll certainly make ourselves available to you to sit down with you and walk you through whatever questions or concerns you might have.
I have a comment that's unrelated. Can I make that? If anybody else? Hey, you guys were awesome today. Came out to my house. I had a burning bush in front of my house. Yes.
Did we put it out?
I can't remember. I don't know if my wife did or somebody did, with the hose or something, but you guys were really good. I didn't hear God speak.
Was Moses there?
So I would just like to thank you guys and gals. So if you would, email me tomorrow. I'll buy lunch and breakfast and dinner for any shift. You name the day. We can do Wendy's breakfast sandwiches, Jimmy John's for lunch.
Firefighters are going to take you up on any kind of a food deal, I'm telling you now. So
I know what I'm offering. I'm good with it. So email me tomorrow, give me the numbers, and tell me.
All right.
So it's on me.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm okay with numbers, whatever they come up to. So.
All right, any other questions for the chief? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, I was going to say if we had any members of the public that wished to speak, but he left before he could speak, so I guess he didn't wish to speak. It's time for city council comments. I know Mike has some comments, so Mike, do you want to bring us up to date on APC?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple quick comments if there was anyone here from the public or the public listening. Just kind of a report as to where the APC was the first 6 months this year. I mean, a lot of folks that could have gone on the website and figured it out, but real quick, the first 6 months this year, the APC had 68 filings, and that compares to an average over the last 7 years of 74 for the same 6 months. So I think that was a pretty good, and quite a bit of work to happen during 6 months of COVID. So proud to report that. Year-to-date, the total value of permits that have been issued, and that's year-to-date again through June 30th, is $235 million versus a 7-year average of $158 million. So we continue pretty good growth rate with respect to permits. And our housing starts for the first 6 months of this year, we had 417 housing starts versus a 7-year average of 352. So again, considering what's going on with the world around us, to have 417 residential starts in the first 6 months is pretty good, amazing. So that's it.
Anybody else? Troy, anything from the Finance Committee?
No, I think we had a pretty good meeting last time, actually talking about, financing of the city and what we expect and what we'd like to see, and that I think we're actually making some good headway there. So.
Anybody else have any comments? The mayor's not here to comment, so I'll say the meeting is adjourned. Yep.